Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. So today I'm back with another recap. And today's movie on the list is Caught in His Web. So this movie stars Garcelle I don't never know how to pronounce the last name, but Allison Thornton, Emma Tremblay, Malia Baker, and Morgan Campbell. So it starts off with this girl, Emma. She starts getting all these crazy messages from this person, and she's basically crying and she wishing that it would stop. So as it goes on, come to find out, excuse me, it's a guy named Blake. He goes by, supposedly he found her on Facebook. And I like to apologize for the background noise. It's windy, so you're going to be hearing some swooshing throughout this video. So yeah, it starts off, yeah, like I said, with her crying. She's wishing that all the messages would stop. And then supposedly she watches her siblings because her mother does an overnight shift. So her mother comes in the morning and she basically gets her siblings ready for school as well as herself. And then she heads on to school. So I believe she's a sophomore in high school. So she goes to school, and then throughout the day she just starts getting these messages, and she just wished they would stop. Over time, the guy just keeps demanding more pictures from her, and she's like losing her mind. Eventually, she sees some messages that he sent her, and then she finds out one of them was her friend. So then I think later on after school, she gets in contact with her. She was like, listen, she showed her the picture of herself. She's like, how did you get this? And she was like, well, this guy Blake sent it to me. And so now she figured out she's not the only one. And she gets restless, so she ends up saying, well, who's the person you talk to? As in, okay, Emma, she ends up going to Olivia, which is her friend. That's the picture that she found. So she ends up going to Olivia, my bad. And she tells her, who is the person you talk to? Because she was talking about going to the police. So she ended up going to the police, and Olivia told her the detective name, which is Detective Holland. And she goes to the police precinct and sits there and waits for, like, I guess, hours on them because she's supposed to be going to work or whatever. But she never made it to work. So she eventually talks to Detective Holland, and the Detective Holland puts two and two together because she was like, how did you get my name? She was like, well, Olivia told me. So she pulls out both of their records and she compares it, like Blake. It's like, okay, so she finds out that what they're saying is actually true. So over the course of the days, more people start coming into light. They found another girl, Gabby. She ended up telling the detective the same story. At this time, her father and brother just think she's just a troublemaker, and like she's not like focusing on what she needs to be focused on. Is just like, okay, you're going down this wrong path. But come to find out, Detective Holland goes to her house and explains to Gabby and her father that this is an incident that doesn't require any like bad wrong. It's just about what she was making a complaint of what happened when she was being cyberbullied online. So now her father knows, and now he's like kind of on the fence about it, but you know, he still listens and takes it in. So I think the next couple of days or so, Emma ends up telling her mom, like, this is what happened, da-da-da, da-da-da. Her mother is like kind of upset because, you know, she's supposed to be to protect her daughter at all costs. But since her mother works overnight and she can't really be there for her, so she's like, feel like it's her fault that this was happening. And Emma reassures her mom that it's not her fault. You know, things like this happen when you're of age, and, you know, you do have contact of devices that allow you to go onto certain sites. You know, anybody can be a predator, regardless where you're at or what you're on. It could be in person, so you never know. So after doing so, they end up all going to school, and they kind of like became, I would say in this case, Olivia and Emma, they kind of rebonded because I assumed they were friends once before, and so now that Gabby came into the picture, it's like they all have something in common. They was all stalked and preyed on by this so-called guy named Blake. They all go to the same school. So Detective Holland brings them in and they all tell their story of like how they originated with the guy and how it led from them talking to, sending pictures of themselves and where they're at now. So after they tell their story, like I said, they bonded over that. They all kind of felt, excuse me, kind of like embarrassed and ashamed because they was telling their story of like, how they met and whatever. So supposedly everybody met on Facebook, and then come to find out, like down the line, like Blake, he basically posed as, because I think at this time Emma was like, sorting out her feelings. So posted on the the website for those gays, bis, lesbians, whatever, posted on one of those sites, and he kind of lured her in that way, Emma. So they're talking and stuff like that. Eventually, Dr. Holland, she was like, okay, since it's more than one person, this must be true. So eventually she goes to the school and she talks to the principal. The principal was like, what does really got to do with what's going on? And she was like, well, all the girls have came to talk to somebody at the school. And the principal was like, who? You. So basically she's at fault for like the principal. I think her name was Principal Moreno, something like that. It started with an M. Principal M. Okay, we're going to call her that. So she basically just brushed them off. Her and the guidance counselor, they just brushed the girls off and like, well, they just, going through something and they're not really putting into perspective what's really going on. So basically what I was thinking when they were saying is like, people only help you when it's beneficial to them, and they won't understand until it's happened to them, basically. So the principal just brushed it off like, whatever, get out of my school, I ain't got time for this. So basically the girls, they started doing their own investigation, and they started like putting like the numbers and stuff that they was receiving from the guy, checking to make sure that they correspond with each other. Detective Holland, she was trying to track the IP addresses, but she ended up getting help from her father's tech teacher at the time, because he used to do a whole bunch of hobbies and stuff. So at nighttime he used to do like, I guess, cyberbully or hacking class or whatever. So he ended up getting she ended up getting in contact with the girl. I'm not sure really what her name was on this, but we're just gonna say tech girl. So she ended up becoming a big part to helping them with the case. So they started tracking his movements, trying to find out the IP address. Once they figured out the IP address, because they was like, once it has to be somebody local that knows the area, and they found that it was a guy from their town, Haney, Connecticut, that was, behind it, because how would he know all these things and the places and the whereabouts? You have to be somebody that knows their whole surroundings, basically. And doing so. So after doing that, he started like keeping tabs on them, because they had to end up closing out their accounts and then recreating them because of their passwords or whatever. So by them doing that, he ended up hacking their devices and everything, because he posed as somebody from Facebook or another site to get access to their information. He was able to do so. So they're still going on with the investigation. The girls, they conjure up and they end up finding more girls. So it basically was like about close to 30 girls from just that school alone that was put into his so-called web of destruction that he was trying to do. And it's it was just so sad to see. It was like they was not thinking they were going to get justice, but they continued to have faith and be strong. It took a while for Olivia to finally tell her parents, but I don't really think she told her parents. They actually found out because he supposedly posted all the information out to everybody because he could hack. So he hacked into all their accounts and he sent them out to all their friends list at school. So that they're at school and everybody just started laughing at them, and each one of them is just like, they're just going through it. They don't know how they were gonna hold it up, keep up, and keep on going with the next day. So it got to the point where, let's say Emma, she was cutting herself. Olivia was taking pills. Gabby, she would not be able to sleep at night, so she was sleeping in school. Then they were supposed to meet up. Once after Olivia finally told her parents, they were supposed to meet up at this diner. And they felt like something was off. And it was Emma. She was not able to, go. And they come to find out she was at home. I guess she either cut herself too much and she bled out a little bit. And then she was found unconscious. Then they checked up on her. Her mother was there at the hospital. And then she finally told her mother everything that really happened. And also told her how that, once they figured out who he was, he started following their every move. Like, he figured out where Emma worked. He went to her job, saw her in person. Olivia, he found out the church she was in, so he was calling and just leaving random sounds. Gabby, I think he was at her school. He used to go to their school too, so he knew. And then, it just gave them so much anxiety and a panic attack that they didn't know that, they were going to ever catch this guy. So, long story short, the tech girl, she was able to, find the other IP address that he was using. He was using his neighbor's address, Wi-Fi, and his sister's neighbor's Wi-Fi, so that he could pinpoint and have access to the girls. That's more than enough access wirelessly to do what he had to do. So doing so, they ended up tracking his home address, and they went into the house. They was like, well, we don't see him here. And then the tech girl, she's basically pinpointing different locations. And then they was like, nah, we had to go back and do a walkthrough. Detective Holland sent out the rest of the cops for backup, to do like a set a perimeter so that they can check to make sure that nobody leaves town. So doing so, Detective Holland, she ended up going back into the house, searching around. She's like, well, nobody's here. Then she starts walking to the backyard. And then she notices a shed. She goes in the shed and she sees his setup. He has all the girls on their screen. And it's just like, and then after that, he bum rushes her and then she falls. And then he tries to get away in his car. So she ends up shooting out the tires. And then his car gets stopped in the middle of the road. And he gets out and tries to run. But she was like, put your hands up. They got him in, took him into custody. And he tried to play it off like he don't know what they're talking about. And, just play it off like he didn't know what was going on. So doing so, I think they ended up letting him go or something. I'm not sure, but eventually they did get enough evidence because the girls played the trick back on him. Like, he used their information against them. So basically they used his information against him. And then he figured it out. Then he started coming into another account for the girl Gabby, and she just started going through. She did the account again. Long story short, he got caught. The girls wrote their victim speech, and he got sentenced to 20 years, 20 plus years, I believe, for the crimes he committed. This was actually based on a true story. I know I left that part out in the beginning, but this was based on a true story. This was executive produced by Whoopi Goldberg. So, yeah. If you know it's online, if you see it on Lifetime, you know it has to be real to a certain extent. But yeah, this was definitely based on true events. True events. Cyberbullying And sextortion is everywhere. You got to be careful who you're talking to, whether it's online or not. And I also watched Behind the Headlines of Caught in His Web, and there was actually a survivor of sextortion. Her name was, I think, Ashley Reynolds, and she was able to, she went through exactly what these girls went through the movie, and she was able to survive. And then come to find out, her stalker, they tracked him down all the way into, I believe, Jacksonville, Florida. And he had over, I would say, 300 girls that he was doing this to. And it ranges from 8 to God knows how old. Like, that was a lot. He ended up getting sentenced to over 107 years. So he's probably still in jail to this day. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this recap. It's definitely a good movie. Y'all can check it out, like I always say, on Lifetime and also on the Lifetime app. So y'all will be interested if y'all would like to watch this. Please check it out. It's called Caught in His Web. Please give it a like, comment down below, hit that subscribe button so you can be notified every time I upload. And I will see you on the next one. Bye.